To many of you, luxury SUVs are just stupid, but some are more stupid than others. Although in saying that, many more of you seem to love luxury SUVs because, well, they sell like crazy. But just because something's really popular doesn't necessarily mean it's any good. And especially in terms of luxury SUVs, it does seem like some models that are heavily hyped, in reality, are kind of underwhelming and therefore overrated. Which brings us to this list, and kicking things off and possibly inspiring its fans to send us death threats, it's the Tesla Model X. Now, unfortunately, we do know from experience that Tesla fans do seem to be some of the most passionate, biased, and aggressive fans out there. But surely even the most ardent Tesla disciples can recognize that the Model X is just immensely overrated. Seemingly never-ending reports of major quality issues, from constant creaking and clunking noises coming from the suspension, even to the point that the suspension control arms can fracture and shear off the ball joints that they're connected to. Then there is the shuddering and vibrations that happen under acceleration. The computer that runs the infotainment system can fail, meaning that the huge center screen becomes basically like a vertical coffee table, and the screen itself is beginning to discolor, through to all of the issues that are beginning to occur with two of the Model X's big selling points, its falcon wing doors. We're talking about how the door's alignment is so bad that they can squeak and creak when opening and closing, but sometimes they don't even fully open at all, or they open and close by themselves. Plus, there are loads of reports of the doors leaking when it rains or when the car is washed. Wind noise is an issue even at slow speeds, and even the paint can peel off the door jambs. Now, if we were talking about some, $2,000 banger of a car, we could ignore all of these issues. But currently here in Australia, the Model X is asking anywhere from $110,000 to $220,000. Okay, yes, the quality has improved of late, and yes, the levels of performance and practicality are truly amazing. But for so much less, you could buy a Hyundai Ioniq 5, a Kia EV6, or a Polestar 2, which might not quite match the Model X for sheer size and ability, but will leave it dead in terms of build quality and longevity. I love that I can almost hear the Tesla fans now banging away at their keyboards going, "How dare you, you bastards!" Anyway, up next, and offending even more loyal fans of a passionate brand, it's the Lamborghini Urus. Okay, let's start with the positives. This thing is an absolute weapon when it comes to performance. And even if you hate what the Urus represents, this thing makes Lamborghini billions of dollars, and we need Lamborghini to do well. Because in the same way that the music industry needs rock stars and outspoken rappers to keep things exciting, the car industry needs Lamborghini to keep pushing the boundaries of what's actually possible. However, aside from how important the Urus is to the brand, and ignoring all the passion and romance, this thing is basically an incredibly expensive Volkswagen. Underneath the angular and aggressive design, the Urus is built on the Volkswagen MLB Evo platform, which is the very same platform that underpins the Bentley Bentayga, the Porsche Cayenne, the Audi Q7 and Q8, and yes, the Volkswagen Touareg. Even in terms of the engine, its 4-litre twin-turbo V8 is the same power plant as found in other Porsche and Audi models, and it's even built in a Volkswagen factory in Hungary. Granted, it is tuned and calibrated specifically for the Urus. But this thing is mainly overrated thanks to its price and the fact that in terms of performance, one of its siblings is simply more talented. Currently, here in Australia, the cheapest Urus on sale is asking $420,000, with pricing topping out at over $560,000. But the problem is, for under $400,000, you can get yourself into a Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT, which is simply faster. Not only that, if the Cayenne's looks don't do it for you, for a little over $250,000, you can land yourself in the gorgeous Audi RS Q8, which again has the same platform, engine, and almost everything else as the Urus, plus it will do and offer basically everything the Urus can, just in a far less overt and ostentatious package, which therefore is far cooler. Actually, an article that we found when researching this video may potentially sum up the Urus perfectly. It reads, "Lamborghini's Urus SUV is a rolling testament to everything wrong with the automotive world, ostensibly made for a job it will never do and could never complete, and sold to people with too much money and not enough taste." Wow, okay. Anyway, next up, it's the Mercedes-Benz GL class. Firstly, if you're buying a Mercedes-Benz GL class because you require a large, luxurious SUV built of precision German engineering, well, prepare to be disappointed because depending on the variant, these are manufactured in India, Indonesia, Thailand, or most commonly in Alabama in the United States. all of which are many thousands of kilometres away from Germany. And the GL class, especially after a few years of use, is also an enormous distance away from the quality and reliability that we have come to expect from a premium brand like Mercedes-Benz. Granted, when brand spanking new and covered under a full factory warranty, the GL class is a decent enough thing, certainly not outstanding in any way, but not bad as such, until it begins to age. As countless reports and our very own full review have shown, the link for which is just up here, the GL class is proving it can be an absolute mechanical and electrical nightmare. And being a Mercedes-Benz, the cost of parts quickly add up. Not to mention the fact that thanks to the GL being loaded with tech and features, it's a complex piece of engineering, and the labour costs to resolve many of the common issues can get out of hand. Then add the fact that the levels of depreciation that these things can suffer from make absolutely no financial sense at all. So overall, the only thing the GL class offers over a host of other large 7-seat SUV rivals is the brand image that comes with Mercedes-Benz. Yet you'll end up with sketchy reliability, expensive maintenance and repair costs, and a constantly depreciating vehicle that may very well end up being, at best, a pretty average SUV, and at worst, a complete and total nightmare. Okay, next up, it's the Maserati Levante. Maserati, once a manufacturer with a rich racing heritage, creating beautifully sculpted and superbly crafted luxurious Italian sports cars, seems to have dropped the ball over the last few years. And this is no more apparent than with the Levante. Firstly, a Maserati should be impossibly beautiful. And yes, we know looks are subjective, and the Levante, it certainly isn't ugly. But its design simply does not inspire people to turn their heads in awe the way that a Maserati should. To many, the Levante looks like a less convincing Mazda CX-5. Some have even gone as far to say that it looks like a cheap imitation or knockoff of what a Levante should look like. Secondly, unfortunately, Maserati, they do have a long history of reliability issues. And thanks to Maserati now being owned by Stellantis, which also owns Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, and a whole load of other brands, the Levante has cut corners and borrowed loads of parts from its various sibling manufacturers' base spec models. We're even talking about the parts that you touch and use every day, like the window switches and indicator stalks, which in the Levante are from the bottom of the range Ram truck. Then there are all the reported issues with ergonomics, the fact that the cargo area is one of the smallest in its class, even though it's around the same overall length as an Audi Q7, the rear legroom is limited, and the tech leaves much to be desired for an SUV asking this much money. Which is where things arguably get even worse. Base spec Levantes here in Australia, they start at around about $80,000, but for that, your sporty Italian SUV will be powered by the same not-so-sporty diesel engine as found in the Jeep Grand Cherokee and Chrysler 300. But let's ignore the lower spec variants for a moment, because the real appeal of a Maserati comes from the fact that, while it might be a usable and luxurious car for every day, it has the heart of a Ferrari. But the thing is, a Levante packing Ferrari's glorious twin-turbo V8 currently ranges here in Australia from $240,000 to $400,000. Okay, yes, that engine is incredible, but the fact that it's wrapped in a pretty bloody average package equates to the Levante being truly overrated. Now, before we get to the top spot, guys, the only way that we can keep making these videos for you is with your support, and the easiest way of supporting us is simply by hitting the like, subscribe, and bell buttons down there and sharing our content with all of your mates. That would be amazing. Also, maybe buying some merch as well. That would also help out. Okay, now it probably comes as no surprise that the final SUV on this list comes from Land Rover, or more specifically, Range Rover. But with so many of their models continually filling up the nasty end of reliability reports, and many of them just simply not living up to the marketing hype, which Range Rover is the most overrated? Well, it's the Evoque Convertible. Let's just defend Range Rover for a moment before we tear shreds off the god-awful topless Evoque. Look, there is no denying Range Rovers are immensely capable and may very well set the standard for design, dynamics, and a sense of understated class when it comes to SUVs. Plus, many owners out there, they adore their various Land and Range Rover models and have never ever had a quality or reliability issue. Especially when brand new and covered under a full factory warranty, Land Rovers and Range Rovers are simply superb. But what started out as what many thought must be an April Fool's Day joke at the 2012 Geneva Motor Show shockingly became an actual thing people could buy from 2016. But why anyone would buy this is completely beyond us. Where do we even begin with how terrible these are? Firstly, unless you're the size of a football, forget about getting in the back seat if the roof is up. And if you somehow do wedge yourself in there, you're going to need to remove your legs because there is minimal leg room. As there is minimal cargo space, thanks to the stupid foldaway roof having to hide in the boot, a Porsche Boxster is a far more practical option. Speaking of the stupid roof, when up, it completely eradicates any sort of rear visibility and creates enormous blind spots, while also failing at one of the more important things a roof really should do, and that's keeping the rain out. Yep, these things leak. Then there are the panel gaps, the squeaking windows, the plethora of various and commonly dangerous electronic issues, fuel system issues, suspension problems, noisy steering systems, engine stalling or just completely failing, harsh and faulty transmissions and malfunctioning windscreen washers. Honestly, basically, these things are shit. The Evoque Convertible is a terrible, terrible SUV made purely for the sort of superficial people that are just obsessed with brand names that possibly carry their chihuahuas around in their handbags. It's just all very sad. They do seem to be one of the... Then there is the shuddering and vibrations that can like a lawnmower starting up, the way that a Maserati should. Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, and a load of other brands. Not so sporty diesel engine. It's happening again. It's simply by hitting... As there is minimal cargo space... So, what did you think? Are these SUVs overrated, or did we get this list completely wrong? I can't wait to hear from the Tesla fans on this one. See you next week.